What if God asked you to give up the one thing you love the most? Not your phone, not your job, but something far deeper. This is the story of a man who faced exactly that. A test so intense, so confusing, it has raised questions for generations. Why would God test Abraham like this? And what does it mean for you today? Before you judge the story, you need to understand the promise. Abraham was promised something impossible. God told him he would become the father of many nations. But there was a problem. Abraham was old. His wife Sarah was far beyond childbearing age. Years passed, nothing happened. Decades passed, still nothing. It must have felt like the promise would never come true. But then, a miracle happened. A son was born. His name was Isaac, the child of promise, the one everything depended on. After all those years of waiting, after all that hope, finally the promise had arrived. But then suddenly, everything changed. God gave Abraham a command that made no sense. Take your son, your only son, whom you love, and sacrifice him. Imagine hearing that, the very promise God gave. Now he's asking Abraham to give it back. No explanation, no reasoning, just obedience. This wasn't just a test of action, it was a test of trust. And what makes this even more shocking is Abraham's response. He didn't argue, he didn't delay. Early the next morning, he got up and began the journey. 3 days, 3 long days of walking, 3 days to think, 3 days to doubt, 3 days to turn back. But he kept going, step by step, closer to the moment that would change everything. Finally, they reached the mountain. And that's when Isaac asked a question that cuts deep. Father, where is the lamb for the sacrifice? Abraham looked at his son and gave a simple answer. God will provide. Then came the moment no one could imagine. Abraham built the altar. He arranged the wood, and then he placed his son on it. The weight of that moment is almost unbearable. The silence, the tension, the heartbreak. And then he raised the knife. Right at the edge of losing everything, a voice called out from heaven, Abraham, Abraham, stop. At that exact moment, everything changed. God had seen enough. Abraham had passed the test. And suddenly, there was a ram caught in a bush nearby. A substitute. Instead of Isaac, the ram was sacrificed. God never intended for Isaac to die. This was never about taking his son away. It was about revealing something deeper, that Abraham trusted God completely, even when it didn't make sense, even when it hurt, even when everything was on the line. So why did God test Abraham? Not to harm him, not to confuse him, but to prove that his faith was real. Because true faith isn't just believing when things are easy, it's trusting when everything feels impossible. And sometimes, the greatest tests come right before the greatest breakthroughs. If this story made you see faith in a new way, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Because some stories aren't just history, they're lessons for life.